All right. Well, I'm sure the notification has gone out. And so, day one of my return trip to Minneapolis. Last time involved a lot of getting around to know the area. I want to answer questions about the what last trip was like, what the plans are for this trip. We're filming a lot more footage this time, so we can work on a like a mini documentary based on it that hopefully can be out very quickly. We've got a fantastic editor. I'm excited to see how that's going to shape up. I want to give people a chance to get into the chat. Feel free to message on there, whatever you want to say. I'll definitely answer some questions. Do the little hearts if you're enjoying what you're seeing. So, this second trip to Minneapolis. And I remember the first time it was right after Renee Good's murder. And so I wanted to get out here ASAP. We distributed a bunch of flyers and we spread the word as much as we could. I went to some ice out stuff. I brought my brother Bashir. We managed to pick up video. I had an ICE officer scream, "Make America Great Again, bitch," at me because I said, "Please don't shoot me." So that was crazy. Just also so people watching this know, I did not attend Harvard. So this is a tip from a former law enforcement officer. You're less likely to be harassed by law enforcement if you wear a suit or hoodies that would subconsciously prime them to think you're less likely to commit crime, which of course is ridiculous. But yeah, get yourself a Princeton or a Harvard hoodie and you're less likely to get traffic tickets or really just about anything. How hard is it to get into any form of journalism? Well, that's a cool question. Yeah, if you guys want to ask me just anything, I'm also happy to answer that. I love talking about writing in general. As far as journalism, I mean, that's the heart of what journalism was. Once upon a time, it was a trade. You applied at you continued to pursue. You went out there and you found information, and maybe you just started your own paper. It's really cool that Substack is kind of a continuation of that, and social media in general. So these are just you just go do it. You try to do it often and you try to do it well. I think that's my biggest advice for anybody. Not that I'm the expert on success, but something that served me really well in my life is just following the principle of if you want to be good at something, then you need to be okay with being bad at it. And you need to do it even when you're not good at it. I learned that as a wrestler because I was really bad at wrestling, but I decided I was going to love it and work hard at it, even if I stunk. And then eventually I got really good at it. So that was cool. And I've applied that principle to everything and now to writing and journalism. I think I published over 1 million words in 2025, actually, because I averaged over 3,000 a day. And that's what, when I read, sometimes when I read writing like Thomas Paine or Carl Jung or just some of my favorite authors in general, Kurt Vonnegut, I think of it in terms of like, cool, by the time I've written 5 million or 10 million words, that's when I should be that good. So that's just a thought. Back in Minneapolis, today was a prep day. So basically, I purchased a couple different things. I'm going to be going out and meeting with a lot of activists. I'm going on the radio tomorrow. I have a radio interview, local radio. Friday-ish, I think I'll be back probably on Tom Hartman's radio show. They sent me an open invite, and so I just reached back out to take advantage of that and talk about what's going on here. But like I said, today I landed. I spent most of my time going to just scope out the plan and put reaching out to locals. I got a hold of Vets for Peace out here, and I'm working on a very exciting project with them. But there's a bunch of stuff I'm not going to tell you guys because I think it's kind of like telling somebody what you're going to get them for Christmas. It's like, I don't want to spoil the surprise, but we got some cool stuff planned. I'm really excited. Hello, Karma. Thank you for joining us for the first time. And so, yeah, we're going to get out to what they call the Whipple building, where they keep a bunch of people. And God, it's so hard for me not to just tell you guys some of the really, I'm excited by it. I'm going to be honest. It's a horrible thing, but like, hey, we get to fight fascism. We get to fight. Thank you for the support, Patricia, because it's not easy. And yeah, like things are dangerous out here. When I was in the military, I deployed for every single deployment that I could. I signed up because at the time I believed I'm going to protect. I mean, even then I knew the wars we were in were garbage, but still it felt like an honorable thing to do, and that was why I chose to go to security forces and the Air Force too. As I said, like, oh, you can help people if they need help, and the Air Force, you know, especially really seemed great. Like I'm gonna protect planes, and and then as law enforcement and military police, like you're responding to things on base, so people who wear the same uniform as you and their family, and so I considered it pretty honorable work, and that was really meaningful to me. So being out here, I'm happy to be here. There's nowhere else on this entire planet I would rather be. And there is very serious stuff, of course, but I wanted to make sure that for my next, sorry. Okay, sorry. For my next encounter, because I got yelled at by ICE last time I was here, and they said, "Are you threatening me?" Because I said, "Don't shoot me." So I wanted to make sure I made a press pass that's really like that they're going to understand that I'm pressed this time. So I made this press pass. See, so that way they know that I'm part of the media. Yeah. Um, so that's my press pass. I have a small one too. There's a bunch of great things I'm going to be doing around here. So, like, I'm going to be getting to know some of the culture, visiting more activists. Hooking up with Veterans for Peace this time has been a huge, huge boon. They are on top of it. If you are not familiar with Veterans for Peace, check them out, especially if you're a veteran, because they have been leading the way in activism for a long time. I mean, when I first met up with some folks from Vets for Peace, some of them had been protesting every war since Korea. They were in the Korean War, they got out of it, and they protested it. So, they've been doing that ever since. It was a little, they're doing amazing work, and it's really important. Also, I'll say it broke my heart because I said, I don't think a single military engagement since World War II has been slowed down, really. I mean, I guess you could argue it, but I'm not sure our demonstrations have had the impact that would be, I don't know. Maybe they've done something, but we need to do a lot better because we can't just keep invading other countries, and now we're invading our own country because we built this machine post World War II, and it makes sense that eventually it would be directed inward. Of course, by allowing law enforcement to get away with everything they have, that's a huge part of the problem too. You know. So let's see. The GOP. Sorry, I'm having trouble reading that message down there. Sometimes if the messages are longer, it's tougher for me to read them. Just as a heads up. But do send questions if you have them, because I want to hear your questions. So, gosh, I can't spoil anything. What else am I going to be doing this week? I mean, just every single day I'm going to be in a different facet of activism or communicating with legislators. Last time I was able to sit down with some state Senate and state House members and talk to them about the A Bribe is a Bribe Act and the constitutional tax escrow for them to, in case they tried to steal our elections or nullify our elections. We were also able to talk about the Means Testing Corporate Welfare Act, which is probably my favorite of them all, to be honest, just because it's such a fun way to say, all right, if you're going to take taxpayer dollars, then you don't get to, then you can't be investing that back into court or into political influence. You have to make a choice. Do you want subsidies or do you want to contribute to politics? But you can't do both. So that's a really good one. Are they able to get the ICE? They're absolutely in the signal chats out here, without a doubt. I've known a bunch of groups that had to change their chats and end them and that kind of thing. So, they're doing that. But on the upside, the current administration loves to invest in meatheads, but they do not like to invest in analysts and investigators. So they don't have a lot of thinkers. They got a lot of dummies with expensive armor. And so that's an advantage for us. We have the brains and they have guns, but we can make it work. We have a lot of options. It's going to be tough over the next few years. We're going to need to aggressively, it's not just enough, like get involved, find local candidates to support, make it really clear to them that your support depends on them being willing to publicly say the Republican Party or a criminal enterprise. And we want to make sure that they're investigated for their, treasonous acts. Just say it. Just normalize that conversation. I want to vote for people who are willing to be honest and say the truth. Now, that doesn't mean you can't support the best candidate in the race. You should just bug them all the time. Like, hey, you know that this is all garbage, right? Why aren't you saying it out loud? I'm going to help you right now. But if somebody jumps in this race who is willing to actually say the truth, even though it might not be politically expedient because truth matters most, that person's going to get my support instantly. Let them know that all the time. George Conway says that. I'm going to need to chat with George Conway soon then because I love that. So, yeah, I'm going to keep saying it because you got to get repetitive in this game because not everybody's listening all the time. I'm a single issue voter, and that issue is charging the GOP leadership and the disinformation machine with treason. That's my issue because we can't make anything better until we do that. Of course, soft secession matters, but it's all just part of a bigger picture. We need to be fighting on a lot of different platforms. Contact your state representatives. That's part of what I'm doing here. I'm talking to these folks. I'm saying we need to have the most productive legislative sessions in U.S. history at the state level. Every day we should pass new bills that are going to help the people, root out corruption, make living more affordable, and fight back against a fascist federal government. Those are all things our states can be doing. And if they don't like it, then let's fill up the Supreme Court's docket, baby. Let's do it. Supreme Court, good luck. You're going to be awfully busy trying to strike down all these laws that we passed. And we're going to pass so many, and they're going to think, gosh, I really want to go vacation with a bunch of billionaires. And they're going to go do that while we keep passing laws. We will just overwhelm them. So like, send those hearts if you want more people also. And for the people who are just joining, I just want to remind you, some of you already saw, I did not go to Harvard. This is a strategy for getting law enforcement to be less likely to bother you because of subconscious priming. Another conversation I want to have from Minneapolis, I'm having a lot of folks out here, cognitive reframing. They want us to feel a certain way. I remember when I first started working in politics, they said, you can just tell people how to feel. You can just start a speech by saying, I want you to feel this way. And they're doing that using the mainstream media, but they're doing it with fear and depression and anxiety. They want to instill you with all the things that weigh you down. And so by choosing to be enthusiastic in your hatred and distaste of fascism, you actually are invigorating yourself. You're giving yourself power. You're strengthening yourself. When you laugh at fascists because they're angry, they're expending energy as you absorb it. That's powerful. So show up with enthusiasm. Is there tragedy in the world? Is it horrible? Yes. I joining the military, doing some law enforcement, sometimes you go to situations that are terrible. If there's social workers out there or people who work in medicine or emergency services, you know what it's like to see the worst of the worst, really horrible things. And yes, Veterans for Peace, thank you. Let me know if you're checking out Vets for Peace now, and feel free to even keep me up to date because I love hearing, hey, I called my U.S. House member today, or I called my state representative today, and I'm going to start volunteering for them. So let me know those things because those give me extra energy too. And so, bring the energy. You can be enthusiastic. There's darkness in the world. For folks who've worked in emergency services, you've seen terrible things, the darkness that humanity has. You've confronted it and you've helped people in that darkness. And it takes a toll, but you still decide who you show up as. One reason that I did military police work for not too far from a decade and then left to pursue other things, but I really enjoyed that. That filled my cup. I did not want to promote out of doing that work, and that's inevitable in the military. I was a corrections officer for 1 year, just under a year, and I had to leave it because I was losing my sense of humor because I was around that all the time. When you spend 40 hours a week in that hyper arousal state of never being able to trust anybody because you're in many cases, you're around the most effective manipulators a lot. Like it's a concentration of that. That doesn't mean that there aren't innocent people there or people who are reforming, but you are also around a higher concentration of people who are the absolute best of the best, often from their trauma, but then the prey becomes the predator as they grow up. And I found that I went to a couple months where I just straight up didn't laugh. And I said, oh my God, this is destroying me. And it took me almost as long to become myself again as I was in that role as a corrections officer, so I couldn't stick with it. And that's most of the people who work in it, but they just choose to stay. And but a very small number can retain their their deeper self and retain good cheer and that kind of stuff. But that's very rare. The Save America movement, Ken Harbaugh, unfamiliar, but if you want to send me info on that, Kathy, I'm definitely up to check it out. So, yes, you're going to confront the darkness of the world, but these things aren't new. America is doing something for the entire world right now, actually. We are. It sounds horrible, but we are the front lines of humanity confronting its shadow once again, just like we did 80 years ago. 80 years ago, World War II, we faced our darkest hour. And we had to look right at it. And if you go to Germany today, you're going to see things. I remember I was just in Berlin a couple weeks ago, and they have these little squares on the ground in front of buildings, and it's the names of Jewish people and other folks who were living in those buildings and taken to concentration camps. And that's the thing. They confront the bad things that they did. They confront their shadow, and they're not going to let themselves forget it. And we are now fighting our shadow. But that's the thing. Like it got as bad as it did because we were just not engaging with it. We've been the CBP and ICE tactics that we're so upset about right now. They've been doing on the border for over 20 years. Okay, we've invaded other countries for decades. I mean, when people talk about Vietnam, not a lot of people mention Cambodia. That we just said, well, they might be moving guns through this country, so we're going to launch the largest bombing campaign since World War II on a neutral country. It's horrific. So we've been doing this for a long time. We've been doing terrible things. That's our shadow. Our tax dollars have been funding that. We've been supplying the arms and the troops and the means for so much destruction for so long. The guy who reported the My Lai massacre, his life was essentially ruined because of that. Because they continued to go after him for decades, while only one person actually got in trouble from all of that, and that we've been doing it for so long, and now the chickens come home to roost, and so now we're paying the price for the sins of our fathers in many cases. So it is. This is our dharma. This is the time of the rebel. Albert Camus talked about it. I rebel, therefore I exist. We are here to fight back, and that, it's our situation. Being upset about it isn't going to change it. It's not. So we're here to make things better and to work through that generational karma. And the spirit of the rebel is rich in the folks here. And so thank you all for being here. So questions, comments, ideas. I also want to let you guys know there is a place for everybody in the movement to dismantle fascism. I promise you, you can actually bug people on social media if you learn how to do it the right way and have it make a difference. I'm glad you're ready, Sandra. You can, if you just do a really good job of keeping a track of what social media is actively used by a politician, and then you go onto their social media and just on every post that they do, you comment like, hey, you funded ICE. Who's running against you in the primary? Or, hey, I just gave $5 to your primary opponent. Or, hey, resign now, please, because you're a seditious traitor. And you just do that every day. And you make little check boxes. I actually think I put them on a post recently for the 7 traitors that voted for DHS funding from the Democratic Party. But you can do this for Republicans, too. I don't want you to just be mean to bad Democrats. Be mean to Republicans, too. Just to make their life worse, at least by some margin. It's pretty minor compared to the amount of damage they're doing to others, but you can at least take up bandwidth with their staff. And so find them on every social media platform and constantly, on every post that they make, share info for their opponent or just call out their horrible voting record. And when you get reactions, that means you've won. And if you don't get a reaction, keep track of that and say, okay, I guess this isn't the right tactic. So every day I'm going to find a different tactic to needle until I've found the location and the type of contact that gets me something, a response. And you can use that for the good guys and the bad guys. So this is about being methodical. You're making progress as long as you are trying. Jeffries, I really try not to spend too much time criticizing Democrats, and I'd rather give you tools to influence them because they're the party that at least is trying to govern. But we also have to have a conversation about, the corporate funded Democrats and the ones who are funded largely by the same people who fund the GOP. That's not all of them, but it's very clear that, we have a problem in American politics, and it's money. It's the influence that it buys. And so find these people, help run primary opponents against them, volunteer for those opponents. We got to get rid of them everywhere we can. Also where elections can still happen at the state level, even as the federal government continues to get consolidated and captured. And I will be very honest that I do not think we are going to reverse the federal government's authoritarian consolidation at the rate we're going. I'll also say that eventually we will. Eventually we will. But that's a greater strategy that's going to take time. It's going to be at least a couple of years until we actually have this ship turned in the right direction. And even then it'll be regional. But what we can do is continue to refine our tactics, build more civic engagement muscle. And as elections happen at the local level, we can elect people who are going to be more rational, more reasonable, more honest. None of this is radical, and they will try to call it radical. But it is not, for anyone who didn't see this post the other day that I made, I said, look, you're not a progressive, you're a rational person. I'm not a progressive. I love the Constitution. I'm a constitutionalist. Heck, I'm more of an originalist than anybody on the Supreme Court. Somebody should teach them what the Emoluments Clause is, for example. But, there is this idea that this ideology that's focused on progress rather than just saying, no, I support policy that is research-backed, humanitarian, effective. The thing that they call progressive right now is like, oh, cool, kids are, not getting enough nutrition and they go to school and they can't afford it. So let's just buy food and give it to the children. And then the moderate path is the neoliberal one of saying we're going to buy this from a third-party private vendor that's ripping us off. And then we're going to hire another third-party private vendor. And then we're going to means test it, institute a bunch of bureaucracy, and then we'll give some of the kids. And we're going to give 20% of the kids food, but we're going to charge 10 times. It's going to cost us, the taxpayers and the government, 10 times as much as it would cost to do it the way that the progressives want to do it. And then the conservatives say, well, we're just going to let children starve. And so two of those options are really bad. So it is not progressive. Look, if you want to identify as a progressive, go ahead. Liberal, go ahead. That's okay. You define however you want. For me, I am saying no. I am rational. I'm reasonable. I'm someone who wants the most fiscally responsible option for healthcare is universal single payer. The countries that do that spend less money on it. They also have higher standards of care. They have less people dying needlessly. They're actually able to have preventative care. That's not progressive. That's rational. That's moderate. Moderate? Oh, yeah, the thing that's the most effective, right? That's what moderate should be. Not adding unnecessary levels of bureaucracy. These terms are meant to obscure the reality of our situation. But here's my call to action. I mean, I've probably asked a lot of things over the course of this, but here's my call to action, actually. Recruit. Get other people. Gosh, somebody asked a question and it went away so quick. Recruit people. Bring them on board. Invite people. We need to educate others. What do you call wanting money out of politics? Rational. Every dollar you give to our founders understood this so clearly. When you give money to politicians, you're buying influence, you're buying access. The only people who should be able to do that are the public, So, my call to action is educate others, inform them, bring information to them. The Montana lost a park to a Chilean billionaire last week for copper mining. It's going to get ugly. Moderate your expectations. We know it. Things are bad. Most humans alive live under authoritarianism. And throughout the modern era, post-agrarian revolution, most people lived under autocrats. Now, for most of human history, if you had a king that was tyrannical, well, they'd have to send somebody on horseback to come and meet up with you to collect taxes, and you just the slower travel of information meant it was more difficult for them to exercise control. Technology has actually facilitated authoritarians' strengthened grasp on humanity. The fight is harder than it's ever going to be. And maybe the math of the situation is that humanity is just destined to destroy itself in a fascist or authoritarian, hellscape. But I don't know. Nobody knows. None of us can predict the future. And right now, that actually, I feel good about that because we can step up, we can educate others, we can inform them, and the numbers will win. The numbers will win. A lot of people ask me every day, truly every day, actually. People ask me, what do we do if they take the internet down? It'd be the greatest gift they could bring to us, guys. That really would. I'm telling you, get in the meat space, get IRL. All right. You want to be anti-fascist? You want to fight back against authoritarianism? Meet people in real life and say, here is some free food. And then the Black Panthers did that. They did a free school lunch program. They would even give lunch to parents. And they would say, here is also a pamphlet. Can I talk to you about, socialism or, different subjects, candidates, they did a lot of good things. Black Panthers, awesome organization. So, yeah, we actually know the things that we need and they're very accessible to us, but it's going to take a couple election cycles and a lot of work. And it's not the election cycles at the federal level. And it's also going to take a lot of activism. How would I address hungry kids? Give them food, bring food to schools, and get on your school boards. Take over school boards with people who are going to say, every child deserves food and I'm not going to wait to get it done. That's what we need is to break. There's so many barriers put up by corporations who've purchased our government to try and get in between solutions. The people who want to make change and solutions, they're trying to get in between that. They want to be middlemen and make money off of that. That's the heart of neoliberalism. And so how do we respond to that? We say, fine, take me to court. Oh, but I'm just going to keep doing it. And what, are you going to have the courts come here and arrest me because I'm running a school program that helps make sure kids get fed? No, you don't sue first, you do first. Enough civil lawsuits. You get the job done in the way that your constituents want, and you let the bad guys fight it out. We should have so many cases sent up to the Supreme Court. So many. I want that. I want us to fill their docket with cases over states' rights. And then I want us to ignore them. That's right, because they're an illegal court, illegitimate. They've shown that they have no commitment to the Constitution. But that's why part of the strategy, this is like we're doing 100 different things at once, okay? But part of that diverse strategy is showing up for local candidates or being that local candidate who's going to say, yes, I'm running for dog catcher, or yes, I'm running for city council. And it is not in my jurisdiction to say that ICE agents must be arrested. But guess what? I'm going to try and pass laws that arrest people for committing crimes. Doesn't matter what badge they have. There's no supremacy clause for murder, for assault, for aggravated assault with a deadly weapon. No matter what position you're in, you should be fighting for justice every day because there's no greater cause. I don't want to hear from my city council members about zoning laws. I want to hear what they're going to do to stop people from being kidnapped, stop people from being beaten and abducted for using their First Amendment rights. And by the way, the Constitution covers everybody, not just U.S. citizens. So with that, I think we've had some good talks. Qualified immunity gone. But that's what I'm saying. Let me just one more thing. Pass the laws at the state. Let the Supreme Court enforce the law. We need to fight for justice first. The law is there to serve justice. As soon as it does the opposite, it is illegitimate. That is what our country was founded on. And so, thank you all for being here. Do that little heart, and it lets people know that this is worth watching. So if you feel like you want other people to see this and you want the algorithm gods to reward it, you do the little hearts. And also at the Existentialist Republic on YouTube, that we have some videos on there and should be getting some more up soon. And we have the Discord at the Existentialist Republic. And I do see your messages, everybody, just so you know, and I like them. At the Existentialist Republic on Discord. Got a bunch of activists on there. I can't actively manage everything, so I'm counting on you guys to unite as a community around these principles and ideas. I'm going to keep showing up. It's here. Thank you from Cincinnati. Appreciate it. I'm going to keep showing up here in Minneapolis. I'm doing some work this week. We're getting video footage together, and I want to have an awesome video essay for you guys just covering the work that we've done. Then there's other cities. I want to be in New York City. I want to be in Philly. I want to be in I'm plans to go to Charlotte, working on Seattle. If you're in a city, what we need the people in those cities to help organize. And this is what Charlotte is doing right now. And it started in Minneapolis, and we're building this template where basically we come out, and appreciate it, Jordan. And I meet with some state reps. And what we do is I show them model legislation. I'm also about to start working on model legislation to address more issues. And if you think there are issues, check out the Discord channel at the Existentialist Republic. That's more general stuff. And sometimes I put shout outs on here. But I'd like to say, for those people who want to get involved, they're saying, how do I get involved with the organization? The Existentialist Republic, the heart of what I'm trying to teach is that we need decentralized activism, decentralized citizen lobbying. So what I'm doing, everybody should be doing. We want 1 million people in this country. I'm going to be going door to door this week, knocking on doors, talking to people about public policy and giving them pieces of paper that say, call Mary Moriarty and call for the arrest of murderer Jonathan Ross. And because if we arrest Jonathan, we put out an arrest warrant for Jonathan Ross, that changes the game. And if there's one thing you should know about Donald Trump is he backs down when you fight back. And if everybody fights back, he will crawl into a little hole and go away. But everybody's got to do it all the time, because there's one thing, whether it's cops or whether it's fascists or whomever, and I have friends who are cops still, but I will say law enforcement, one of the first things they taught us was the cop fair fight is where you outnumber the other side. And if they don't outnumber you, they run away. If they don't have more power, as soon as the power becomes asymmetrical, they disappear. And the same goes for Trump and the GOP and all the fascist cowards running this country. And so when states start stepping up en masse, we will do well. But you can't just say, but they're not doing anything. It's our job to make it that way. It's not going to happen quick. It's not going to be easy. But I think we can have a good time, and we could do some damn good work. And what could be better work than saving the world? So thank you for being rebels. Thank you for wanting to make the world a better place. I am going to get video of door to door. We're getting a bunch of footage this week. And I'm going to do what I can to equip everybody more so that we can be the decentralized, distributed activist network, where as many of us as possible are educating ourselves and others, acting to make the world a better place, whether it's through lobbying your representatives or helping to elect better ones, or getting out in the street, educating the public on what they can do. And that's the recruit stage after the act stage, and then you repeat the whole dang thing. And so thank you all for being here. I'm a fan of yours, every one of you. I'm fans of yours, and thank you. So get after it.